Hello, and welcome to the Crypto Masters podcast, helping the general public to master an understanding of crypto assets. My name is Brian McCoy.
And my name is Ross Eaton.
And we are the Crypto Masters. Let's get started with today's episode. Today's topic is Litecoin. Our goal, as you know, is to provide information about crypto assets to help the public make investment decisions in the crypto space. We don't try to predict short-term price movements, so this show is not for short-term traders.
We provide information about different crypto assets to allow listeners to make their own investment decisions. This is not financial advice.
Disclaimer, this is not financial advice.
Big red flags going up.
Yes. All right. Previously, we've discussed Bitcoin. We've discussed Ethereum. We talked about Bitcoin being the cryptocurrency. We talked about Ethereum being the platform and utilizing smart contracts. Today, we will discuss Litecoin, which is currently the sixth largest market cap. And it essentially is in the first category of with Bitcoin being a cryptocurrency. In fact, it was a hard fork of the Bitcoin code back in 2011.
Are these fun facts? Because I'm having fun.
These are super fun facts. But you know what? Let's jump into Litecoin. So, Ross, maybe a good place to start is Litecoin is known as being a hard fork of the Bitcoin code. What is that? What does that mean?
So yeah, I think it's a perfect starting point because just to start with Litecoin, you've got to know what a fork is. To give a good analogy here, so I like to think of it as soda. I don't drink much soda, but I like to think of it that way. So soda, let's say Coca-Cola. You've got, a consensus of what the ingredients are for Coca-Cola. It's got this certain
secret,
amount of,
I think.
The secret. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
No.
I've heard no one knows.
It's a secret.
But I mean, you have a consensus for certain ingredients that go in Coke, like the certain amounts of sugar, the flavor, all that goes in. So you can just churn out, reproduce Coke, right? And you can hand someone a Coke at different places around the world, and they'll know this is a Coke.
Mm-hmm,
so if we fork off that idea, say someone says, well, I like Coke, but I want to create vanilla Coke. It's a tweak.
That's a thing, vanilla Coke.
It is a thing. It's
It's
scary.
a fork of Coke.
It's a fork of Coke.
Essentially, gotcha. All right.
So, someone said they want to create vanilla Coke, right? So they add this ingredient of vanilla Coke. Maybe there's certain things along that too. Maybe they decrease the amount of sugar because you add in vanilla. There's more sugar. I don't know. Stuff like that.
Right.
But now you fork off. Coke's still around. But now you have this new thing of vanilla Coke. And you can churn out vanilla Coke. You can reproduce it. You can keep on going. So now you can see how...
All right. So Litecoin is the vanilla Coke to Bitcoin's Coke.
Yeah.
All right.
Or cherry or whatever you have.
Or any other Coke variation. All right. So in the crypto world, how does that work with sort of the code of Bitcoin? So you got the code of Bitcoin is open source, right? Meaning it's available to the public.
Right. So I think that's an excellent point to bring up, is that this is mainly possible due to open source code, right? Like if I personally, if I wanted to fork off Bitcoin's code, I could copy it, I could manipulate it and call it Rosscoin.
Yeah.
And we could go on from there.
Yeah. Bitcoin lead or something like that, since there's Bitcoin gold and Bitcoin something else. But anyway.
Wow.
Yes, I got you.
I didn't know where you're going with that. I love it, though.
Bitcoin lead. It's like a much cheaper version of Bitcoin.
Yeah, you went way low for that.
Yeah, I went low. Yeah.
I like it. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of generally it. And
you go to what is it, GitHub?
Oh, yeah. So we...
I mean, among other places, you could get the code at GitHub.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of Git repositories or Git sites you can go to. There's GitLab, there's GitHub, all sorts of stuff. But I think the main thing is GitHub, and I know Bitcoin lives there now.
Yeah, I mean, it's open source, so you can definitely get it if you want to, and then you know what to do with it.
Yeah, and I think thinking about this and if this code was protected and had all sorts of private issues with it, let's say I make a game it's going to be hard for someone to fork off my game if they have to come and say,
Or
hey,
Coke. For anyone else to fork off Coke.
Yeah.
Right. Only Coke could really fork off Coke because it's not open source. It's proprietary.
Exactly. Their ingredient is secret in their own lab or what have you.
Right.
So I mean, I think that's the main deal with cryptocurrencies is that open source code allows people to fork off, copy, manipulate code, and go on from there.
All right. So what very generally what happened in 2011? I'm going to throw out another fact. Litecoin went live on October 7th of 2011. So what happened on that date? What did Charlie Lee, who's sort of the guy who's credited with Litecoin, what did he do on October 7th of 2011?
So basically, I guess prior to that, he's copied. So what he's done up till then, he's copied Bitcoin's code. He's made some changes as he sees fit. I want to change X, Y, and Z to ABC.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about those changes.
That's coming up. So stay tuned for 5 minutes too in the future. But basically, he's copied Bitcoin's code, or in Git terminology, forked it. Made some changes, and now he's got not whole new code base, but a new code base to now release out to nodes to do verification on blocks in the blockchain.
And to be a new coin like this, at least from a hard fork of Bitcoin, and specifically with Litecoin, a whole new blockchain. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
So to me, it seems like, according to you, coders, you programmers, it's not that difficult because it's open source. It's not that difficult to go get the Bitcoin code and make a hard fork. But to me, it seems like the hard part then is getting the community behind it to support a blockchain and the consensus and all that goes with it, meaning miners and node operators and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and especially from a coding standpoint, is deciding, exactly what you said, is deciding on those sets of changes to go with. So you have this following, or at least initial group of people to help you out and start mining this new blockchain.
And apparently back in 2011, Charlie Lee had that community, at least had some notoriety. I know he was known as being a Google engineer. He had started, I think, another coin prior to Litecoin, and it had some issues, but he had some notoriety apparently to start Litecoin, and then got the community to support a new blockchain. So I guess then the question then, Ross, what potential investors should know is really what are the differences between Litecoin and Bitcoin?
So yeah, that's the key thing there. What's the difference? And
why did they do it, right? That's the question, right? We got this hard fork. We got Bitcoin back in 2011. It's 2 years old, but at least it's somewhat established back in that era. But it does have some issues that we know about now. And so what was Litecoin meant to address?
I think its main address, and this is my initial appeal to Litecoin back in the day, we'll say, was just its speed. It's like Bitcoin, it's got,
10 minutes.
It's got 10 minutes.
10 minutes per block.
Yeah, I mean, when I first tried to trade Bitcoin, I can't remember for what coin. I was sitting there just waiting on an exchange. I mean, just waiting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was sitting there with my friend like, wow, this is
slow.
Very slow. And especially for the amount of coins I trade, Brian, it's dust, as they say.
Not enough to. We're talking Satoshis, maybe.
Oh, we're talking Satoshis, Brian. But I mean,
but yes, I mean, obviously, the major criticism of Bitcoin is its speed. I would say so. Litecoin, that was one of the things Litecoin meant to address.
Yeah, it's to have greater speed, but still have a viable amount of security. Let's say that.
Okay. And so what did it do? What did Charlie Lee come up with that was an improvement, supposedly?
Yeah, the main thing, and this is a major concern or major thing to note for miners, is the new hashing algorithm. So Bitcoin uses SHA-256, which, as we know, is I mean, super secure, very computationally expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what um, he went to was what's called S script, which we can get it down into the nitty gritty. But what it comes down to is it's much less computationally expensive to, enable you to verify transactions quickly, but still have a level of security that's not outrageous.
Okay, so even back in 2011, I guess the mining competition apparently got to be such that you had to keep upgrading. You couldn't just do it from your CPU anymore. And if you had a GPU, your chances probably weren't that great. And so, one of the things that was a big change in the Bitcoin mining, in the early days was specialized rigs to be able to solve the puzzles of the SHA-256 cryptography faster than the competitors, so that you would get to the block and get the block reward, right?
Yeah, and that comes to like the another the kind I guess the second main appeal to Litecoin is like, they want to make this back to what Bitcoin originally said, which is basically anyone should be able to mine these blocks and be a node and be a part of the
Yeah,
system.
you could run it out of your house or whatever. Sure, your electric bill would be a little bit higher the next
Yeah.
month, but not what it turned into now, which is all of these warehouses full of special ASIC rigs dedicated to mining Bitcoin and using tremendous amounts of power. So at least in 2011, when Litecoin came out, it went back to if you had a CPU or definitely a GPU, you
Yeah.
could be somewhat competitive in the mining and maybe win a block every once in a while.
Oh yeah, and that's a huge appeal, especially back in 2011. It's like, man, Bitcoin, the competition is too high. There's this new blockchain with Litecoin going on. I can use like a GPU and even a CPU to mine it. It's like, wow, I'm sold.
Yeah, yeah.
But as we all know, competition now has gotten.
Even in the Litecoin world.
Yep, even in the Litecoin world, it's
So
gotten
so
crazy.
from being able to be competitive and solving the puzzles, as the hash rate goes up, the puzzles get more difficult with Litecoin as well. I'm guessing as proof of work, same as Bitcoin. I guess the puzzles have to get more difficult.
Yep,
All
yep.
right,
I
and
mean,
so then as I understand, they came out with special rigs for Litecoin mining as well, which kind of did away then with your chances to just run a regular GPU.
yep. I mean, it's almost coming back to this vicious cycle of like, person A, like, oh, I've got a CPU, I can actually compete and mine some nodes and get some rewards, and
Yeah.
then person B, like, well, I'm gonna upgrade to this GPU, and then person A goes back and I'm gonna get a more powerful GPU, and the cycle just goes on, and then you just get outrageous.
All right. Anything else about the hard forking that we ought to know about how that works or how it worked here with
Oh, so
Litecoin?
an excellent I guess you call it property or a cool fact about forking is, say you have two Bitcoin and there's a hard fork over. So your Genesis node of the new block or new chain is block, let's say, I mean, just for giggles, it's block 100 of the Bitcoin blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really destroy those two Bitcoins you have. So what the
Right.
new block is
Everybody
going to
who's on the
say,
old block is still on the block.
yeah, they can still keep going, keep your Bitcoin and going, but on the new block, you at least get an equivalent amount of coins in that new currency. So in Litecoin, if you had two Bitcoin on the new chain, you have two Litecoin. Of course, it's not going to be of the same value Bitcoin is, but just to make things work and flow evenly, you
Okay.
know.
So if you're a holder of the existing blockchain, you get coins from the forked blockchain.
Yep.
And then presumably, or at least maybe hopefully, you then want to participate in the new chain. I guess maybe it's part of that.
Yep. So,
All right, all right. Let's talk about other differences with between Litecoin and Bitcoin. So I know you said that the speed of Litecoin is much faster than Bitcoin, and I think in fact it's 4 times faster, right? So as whereas Bitcoin is one block every 10 minutes, Litecoin is every 2.5 minutes.
2.5. Yep, that's where they try to keep it at.
Yeah. So 4 times faster. And I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but also I noticed the total supply is 4 times greater. So whereas the total supply of Bitcoin is 21 million, the total supply of Litecoin is 84 million.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that a lot of aspects of Litecoin are just kind of like tweaks of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it a lot. Like
by nature, I guess it's a hard fork. So we're really talking about the same thing. And to some extent, I mean, as you said, the biggest change really is the S-crypt versus the SHA-256.
And now in 2020, I know a lot of people are thinking like, "Wow, he just kind of copied and tweaked a bunch of things." But I mean, in 2011, at that time, that's pretty cool to like. Well, I like Bitcoin's ideas, but I'm just going to tweak them a little bit. I mean, at the time, it's really cool.
Well,
really
to me, it's pretty significant that this happened in 2011, which is way before most coins that exist today, certainly existed. And it's still around. It's still number 6. It's now, as of the date of this recording, it's the number 6 on Coin Market Cap. So it's definitely stood the test of time to some extent.
Yep.
All right, and so as we've said, similar to Bitcoin, it uses the proof of work for its consensus. And last year, Litecoin had a halving. The rate went from 25 coins per as the block reward to 12.5, and that was in August of 2019. Is that right?
Yep, and I think that was another appeal to get people over to Litecoin too. And I think Charlie Lee has come out and say like, his reason for making Litecoin was not to compete with Bitcoin, but to be a complement to Bitcoin for smaller transactions. But yeah, that was one of the earlier appeals. Was like, hey, you get more coins paid out if you join the Litecoin blockchain.
Early on. Yeah, so, although right now, as we speak, the rewards are the same. In other words, the block reward is 12.5 for both Litecoin and Bitcoin. Although, as we know, the Bitcoin halving is coming up in May of 2020, where the reward will go down to 6.25.
Yeah. So Litecoin will still be a little bit ahead. So
a little bit ahead. Although
not in value, but
the price is not proportion as 1/4 is not 1/4 of the price of Bitcoin as at the time we're doing
that part did not exactly work out.
Did not happen. Well, all right. Let's talk then about our sort of thoughts on Litecoin versus Bitcoin, and maybe I'll throw this out at you.
Bring it on. Throw it at me.
I think a lot of people, including myself, think that Bitcoin is a store of value and in some ways comparable to gold in the sense that gold is a store of value. And when, world events threaten the status quo, such as some event that, maybe portends a future war of some significance, then gold usually goes up. And I think we've seen that to some extent with Bitcoin, and I think that'll be more the case. Charlie Lee has certainly tried to say that Litecoin is the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and I was wondering if you see it in that way as well, or is that just an analogy that doesn't really hold the way that gold does to silver?
Yeah, I don't know. I would before kind of prepping for this podcast, I'll be honest, I was a Litecoin fanboy. I was very into Litecoin.
Fanboy, wow.
Oh yeah,
that's intense.
Oh yeah, I was very into.
No,
Litecoin.
I knew you liked Litecoin. I've heard you talk about it.
I've got a lot. Most of my stake right now is in Litecoin, and I think that might be changing. Just because my initial appeal to Litecoin was speed of transaction. Mm-hmm. Like I said before, like waiting on Bitcoin to transfer funds over to something else is ridiculous. So when I switched to Litecoin, I was like, oh yeah, 2.5 minutes. That's not bad.
Yeah.
And now I almost would rather switch over to something more stable.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
Right.
we don't have to get into it, but Tether or something.
We'll talk about Tether in a
Yep.
future episode, but yeah, and maybe even Tether came about after you got into Litecoin because in the early days, Litecoin was sort of a better alternative if you're going to be switching among different cryptocurrencies. It was a good way to do that, as you said. But now Tether seems to have become the default for that. But we can talk about that later. What about though? I mean, you still have advantages, I think, with Litecoin to Bitcoin. One of the issues with Bitcoin is it is it even realistic to have Bitcoin as more of a day to day currency? And I think most people say no, unless the Lightning Network takes off, and maybe that's for another show as well.
Yeah.
But
It's too many topics, man.
yeah, too many. But it's still Litecoin still has that advantage over Bitcoin. In other words, it's so much faster that it can be used more realistically as a daily currency versus Bitcoin.
Yeah. And if you can do that little sacrifice in security, I mean, I think it's negligible. I mean,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my thoughts on the silver and gold thing. Again, that's probably just a marketing thing that Charlie Lee came up with to promote his coin.
A big buzzword for me.
Yeah,
Silver to
and
gold,
I don't
cool.
blame him for that. And maybe his point was we're not really competing with Bitcoin. We're sort of an alternative, and with that, I'm fine. I don't really see Litecoin as a store of value. I think right now,
Oh, okay.
if you're going to look for a digital store of value, you're going to Bitcoin. I don't see. I don't see Litecoin.
You're already mixing them up, man.
Yeah,
You're getting sold.
No, I don't see Litecoin as being an alternative to that. I think that's for now. Bitcoin is the store of value in the digital crypto world. But I do see Litecoin as being an alternative to Bitcoin as far as a currency goes. My issue with investing in Litecoin is the alternatives. There's lots of alternatives, more recent. In fact, about all of them are more recent, meaning they've had, the experience and time to learn from, issues of Litecoin. And we'll of course talk about those in future podcasts. But that's my concern. I don't know if it's going to be the winner or one of the survivors, I would say, of the cryptocurrencies for more day-to-day transactions. It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. I'm just not convinced of it enough yet to invest significantly in it.
Yeah, I think, like we said before, going back to 2011, this is cool. This is really cool stuff compared to Bitcoin. But
Right.
I don't know. Now, I think you said it perfectly. There's so many competitors that achieve this speed of transaction goal that's just like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Litecoin's kind of just getting lost in the
I
shuffle
like it.
now.
I think it was great. It sort of maybe started part of the ICO revolution, which went crazy, which went way over the top. But I mean, it's still around, and therefore it does have value. It is serving a purpose. It's just hard to say where we are, whether it'll end up surviving or somebody else that's one of these other coins that are sort of addressing the same market will end up prevailing.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like our general consensus is if you're going to have a store value, Bitcoin is probably your better option.
For store value,
for me,
for store value, go to Bitcoin. If you're looking for a
speed.
currency that'll be a cryptocurrency that'll be used more on a day-to-day basis instead of the fiat currencies, it is the way I see it, is one of the contenders, one of several others, which we'll talk about in future podcasts. But at this point, I'm not confident enough to invest a significant amount in it.
Yep. And after this episode, I'm kind of wanting to change my mindset a little bit.
Hey.
I might get on some exchanges tonight and make some moves.
There you go. Well, hey, that's part of why we do this. But anyway, I think Litecoin is definitely something to keep in mind, to keep on your radar, to follow, to compare to the other cryptocurrencies, and then just make a decision on what you think to invest in.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, this has been another presentation of the Crypto Masters.
That's right, guys. Stay tuned next week. We'll bring you something even better.
All right. Take care, everybody.